people have rewritten a classic story and there's a lot of different versions of that story out, are we then allowed to legally read this and show the pictures on YouTube, in public readings, etc., without it being copyright infringement? Let's talk to everybody's favorite IP and entertainment lawyer, Tony, to find out more.
My name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called The IP Professor that is dedicated to all things intellectual property.
Tony, we've been talking a lot about public performances online and in person of reading books and whether or not that's legal. We know you have to have the licensure in order to do that. And if you guys haven't seen those episodes, they're in the playlist. We'll link them down below for you. But we did have a question on there where someone wrote in saying that they wanted to read a book like The Night Before Christmas. And because there are so many versions of that book out there, does that mean that they're then able to hold those books up and show the pictures and read it from that book because there are so many, or is that going to be an issue for them?
So it's likely going to be an issue with the caveat, right? So let's start with the top that, The Night Before Christmas is part of Christmas lore, very, very old, centuries old, been around for quite a while. The story itself is very, very likely in the public domain, but there are people that will republish the story. And what's often supplemented with it are, as you correctly indicated, Cam, the illustrations that are associated with it. So, maybe like the whole premise of the Night Before Christmas, all through this, I can't even quote it, but basically, not even a mouse, not even a creature story, not even a mouse. And like, let's say you drew an illustration of like a barren street with literally no creatures, not even a mouse. That illustration is governed under copyright. If in the line where it says arose such a clatter, let's say it's a line about, or you have an illustration of Santa climbing up a ladder to go up to the chimney, or maybe the reindeer have now landed on a roof, and you illustrate that is also under copyright. Mm-hmm. And let's also put in another scenario here. Scholastic releases an edition of Christmas Carol with its illustrations. Penguin releases an edition of The Night Before Christmas, with illustrations. You have Random House with its illustrations for The Night Before Christmas. So you have Scholastic, Penguin, Random House, Simon & Schuster, independent publishers, all of them with their own renditions of The Night Before Christmas. And each one has their own illustrations. Each one has their own independent copyright to that specific work. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the business of doing read alouds and you want to show, let's say, the illustrations, your best bet is to find a version of The Night Before Christmas with the illustrations that are definitely in the public domain. And that's where you would have to look at the copyright publication date. That's usually found on the first few pages of the book. When you open it up, usually you'll see like the ISBN number and all the different information like the copyright owner. And usually there's a copyright notice that has the C circle next to the year. That is going to be the best indication that lets you know what the copyright status of that is. So let's say Scholastic published a version of The Night Before Christmas in 2017, and it has a C circle 2017. That lets you know that is still covered under copyright law. Let's say you found a version of The Night Before Christmas that was published, let's say, by a now defunct publisher that contains illustrations, but that book was published, let's assume, in 1915. That's when it's fine, because now it's in the public domain. Usually works that precede 1928 are now in the public domain because the corporate copyright term has expired on those assets. Anything from 1928 on is still governed under copyright law. Actually, come the start of 2024, all the works that are from 1928 will enter the public domain, but there are works that have been grandfathered in during older eras. They have been grandfathered into the Copyright Act of 1976 that allow for corporate corporate copyright governance to basically stay steady and stay afloat. So bottom line, if you're in the business of retellings, just really take notice of the copyright notice inside the book. Look at the year. That's going to give you the best indication if it's in the public domain or not. And obviously, if you have any questions whatsoever about the status of a copyrighted work, especially when it involves illustrations that are very much protected under copyright, that are under the copyright protection of the publisher, you do want to check with your lawyer to make sure that you would be in the clear, or they would tell you you can't show it and they can explain why. But that's essentially the landscape, the kind of the mindset that you should have with read alouds this holiday season.
And if you have further questions on what you can and cannot do in the publishing space, now is a great time to drop those questions. Tony's coming back for upcoming episodes to make sure we are safe and legally protected in this space. And as always, you can reach out to him on his social media. Tony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor. You can check out my entertainment law podcast called End Scene. New episodes drop every Friday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
For questions on the legal side of publishing, because Tony is coming back for upcoming episodes to keep us safe and protected in the legal space of publishing. We're also dropping videos daily to help you navigate the world of your publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable and stress-free year ever. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.